Alright guys, it's Chatterbox Reviews, coming at you guys with my review for Stranger Things Season 3, Episode 5. Alright, so in this episode, things are really heating up for this season. I mean, like, really heating up. So, a crazy cliffhanger to this one. I don't think we saw any of Billy in this episode, actually, which was interesting, but yet it was still very, the supernatural element was very present in this one, and the pace really picked up. So, anyways, I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on this episode, or if you have already seen all the episodes or a little bit ahead of this, let me know your thoughts of the overall season. Love to discuss with you guys some of the stuff in this season and in this episode and what we've seen so far. Really great stuff. So, and I've heard a lot of people. I know I'm taking my time with this one. And, probably a lot of people have made their way through it already. People saying this is the best season yet. I don't know. I'm not all the way through it, so I'm not going to crown it that yet. But to me, I think even just in the first 5 episodes now, I think it is better than Season 2. I can for sure say that. Whether it's better than Season 1, I'm not quite ready to say that yet. But anyways, so if you enjoyed the review, please leave a like and consider subscribing to the channel. Would really appreciate that as well. But without any further ado, let's go over a little bit of a recap of this one. Then get to my rating, favorite character, and some more overall thoughts / predictions, or kind of theories as to what might happen next and how this season may actually wrap up, right? How it might actually end. With this stuff that we have seen so far in this episode and then also the previous ones. So anyway, so let's get to Joyce and Hopper first. So I'm going to talk about these, basically these different groups. They got about three different groups, more or less, in this episode with, 3 different things going on all at once. And so then I'll kind of split them up and talk about each one individually. So, and I'm sure they'll eventually connect, but for now they're quite distant, actually. Alright, so first we have Joyce and Hopper go to the Ness abandoned farmhouse, or the Ness farm they call it. And this is a crazy sequence, right? And to me, I thought the way they left it off last episode that they were going to be heading to this abandoned building where we already know Billy is and this monster and everything's going on, right? In that one building, that one abandoned, like, it looks almost kind of like an old factory building or something like that, right? A mill building or something like that, right? So anyways, they don't go there, but they go to this abandoned farmhouse, and they end up finding this trap door under the bed in the one, I guess in the bedroom of this house, and they kind of pick up on a few things, though, first, right? The lights are, have been on for a while. They see a cigarette tray with some, cigarettes in it, so they know that someone is there, or at least has been there the last, week or so, or a few days, I guess. And so they suspect something. So they find this trapdoor under the bed to the basement, where they end up finding the scientist from episode 1 with the Russians, and also a repairman that's there accompanying him. So this was really interesting. Of course, you recognize him right away from that episode 1, where he was the guy, kind of the right-hand guy to the guy that the Russians killed because he couldn't get the job done. And then they told this scientist guy, Alexei, which we find out is his name, or Smirnov as Hopper calls him, he is the guy that's next in line, who they told he has a year now to, basically do what that guy couldn't do in opening the gate. With this new machine. So really cool how they connect all this stuff. And again, last season, though I really didn't like this storyline, but I will give them credit that they introduced that kind of number 8 sister or whatever to 11 in episode 1, and then similarly, I think it was episode 6 or 7, then they brought her into the story. So I thought it was interesting that they, kind of did that at first, and now we recognize him right here, instead of just having to explain this character again right when we, meet him. So I thought that was good, and to me, I thought that this meant that the Russians were, somehow, getting a part for the new machine, or, testing something. Something was going on there in that basement, and obviously they've been there for a little bit, right, trying something, or trying to get a new part, something like that. Anyways, and so the scientist and the repairman are found down there, and before Joyce and Hopper can actually get any information out of them, the motorcycle man quickly returns to the house to save the scientist. Just making for a really, really great sequence. We hear kind of the boots stomping on the floor above them. That was a really great kind of, suspenseful thing, waiting for him to come down there. He's got this machine gun on his shoulder, right? So it's really awesome the way they set up this whole sequence. So anyways, he comes in to basically save the scientist, fight off Hopper again, because remember, like, he beat him up good last time, right? Like, Hopper got a pretty damn good beating the first time they met, although he did get the upper hand. He came up behind him. But anyway, so he gets into this fight with Hopper here. And I thought this was actually a pretty good choreographed fight scene. I thought it actually looked pretty good. Hopper's able to basically, I wouldn't say maybe get the best of him, but he's able to at least injure him here. He's able to injure his leg with that wrench. He kind of, I think he smacks the back of his leg with the wrench, and obviously, I wouldn't say, breaking his leg or anything, but obviously injuring it to a point where he couldn't run. And so that obviously helps them. So he's able to injure his leg. Hopper, Joyce, and the scientist are able to run out of the house. They just leave the repairman there tied up. Thought that was pretty cool. Anyways, or pretty funny. But anyways, so they run out of the house, Joyce, Hopper, and the scientist together. And as they drive away, the man continues to shoot at them. And I'm thinking, like, this is just some Terminator shit right here, right? Like, this guy is, a man, like, he's like more than a man. Like, this guy is like 3 men, right? Just massive shoulders, just a big guy, right? Very intimidating, and he's got this machine gun, and he just, like, doesn't stop firing the whole way until he basically runs out of bullets, runs out of ammunition there, and they're able to get away. So ultimately, I thought that sequence was really, really great. Some intense stuff there. You knew that, this Hopper's probably not going to get beat up again. You knew that they were probably going to get find a way to somehow get out of there. But I thought it was a nice sequence. And then Hopper says, "You still think it was our government?" To Joyce. I think we can all agree, nope, it is the Russians. And it is confirmed, too, because the scientist, Alexei, of course, is speaking Russian, right? So I think at this point, I think it is confirmed for sure now that it is the Russians and that they're the ones behind this whole operation. Now, I think, obviously Joyce was thinking that it was Hawkins' lab and they were up to the same old shenanigans, if you will, which, I mean, I think she's kind of right. They're trying to open the gate, right? They're trying to open the gate, but it is not from Hawkins' lab, and it's not necessarily the same people who are behind that, but they are in Hawkins after all. So after being on the run then for a little, Hopper ends up stealing a car at the gas station. Again, just a really great scene there where he, commandeers his vehicle for a police escort or something like that. He says he's a child murderer, the scientist guy. So anyways, I just thought that was a really funny sequence, really charming. David Harbour playing a different type of character this season, but he is doing an amazing job at it. Can't give him enough credit for what he's been doing so far. Really awesome stuff from Hopper. So anyways, so they steal this car at the gas station. They drive to the now I don't remember his name, but I'm just gonna call him the conspiracy guy, right? So they drive to this conspiracy guy's place in Illinois, as he is the closest person that Hopper knows who speaks Russian. And it's just hilarious, right? To me, I didn't think we'd ever see this guy again. I thought he was like just a little forget-me character in season 2, who obviously provided a lot of good comedic relief. But, I mean, it was somewhat of an effective storyline that he came in and, with Nancy and Jonathan exposed the Hawkins lab a little bit, watered down and all that stuff. But he's back. Like, they actually brought him back. So, anyways, I liked his character in the limited time that he got last season, and it's going to be cool to see him again in this one. And now they count on him to get information out of this scientist, Alexei, because he is the only one who speaks Russian, obviously, out of the 3 of them. And then we see Joyce kind of tell him off, stop acting, all protective and go with a metal detector on him, right? We just need answers at this point. And so I thought that was a really great scene, too. And, of course, this is all while the Russian man, right, the Terminator man, still is hunting them down. He goes to the gas station, tries to get some answers out of the clerk there, as to where they went and all that. So they're still being chased down, and yet they're gonna be at this guy's house in Illinois, you know, trying to get him to translate Russian so that they can get some information out of Alexei. But anyways, it's gonna be an interesting one going forward. But I loved almost everything about that storyline in this episode. Really awesome stuff. Winona Ryder, David Harbour doing an amazing job so far in this season. Alright, so after a day passes being stuck in the elevator room, Steve, Dustin, Robin, and Erica are able to get out by jamming the door when two men come to pick up some of the packages inside. And I like this. Of course, we have a couple scenes, I think, but before they actually get out, where they're trying to figure out, you know, what do we do? You know, Dustin's first suggestion is climb out of there, and then they get up on top of the elevator and see the shaft, and it's like, okay, that's not possible, right? Like, never mind on that idea. So anyway, so they can't climb out, so they essentially wait until these two men come. They hide on top of the elevator, and then they all jump down when that door is about to close. Steve jams it with the little, like, kind of the capsule of that green gooey liquid, it looked like. He jams it with that. They're able to get out, and then that liquid kind of melts, and Erica was talking about drinking it before, and of course Robin kind of is like, you still want to drink that now? Anyways, and so we haven't found out still, I guess, what that is, although maybe we do, because they do, it looks like they insert it into that machine a little bit later, so maybe it is some type of fuel for that machine to open up the gate. Either way, they're able to get out. So they walk into what seems to be a never-ending hallway. I mean, this thing, it just goes on forever, it looks like. They say this hallway's not meant to be walked on, and of course, that's what they're doing. You know, so it probably takes them forever, right, to walk down this damn hallway. And eventually, they hear the same Russian radio broadcast as before, you know, the silver cat, that type of stuff. And they figure out that it's close to them, right? The signal is very clear when they're picking it up on the radio. So they figure out that it's very, very close to them, and that if they can reach it, that means that they may be able to call for help above the ground, because they know that broadcast reaches above the ground because they've heard it up there. And so I thought that was, you know, a really, you know, quick kind of realization there for sure, from Robin's point of view. And she is pretty smart. Like, she is the one who's kind of figuring things out here, and really kind of getting the group to where they should be. You know, without her, I don't know where they would be, to be honest. So yeah, really, really great stuff there. So they essentially must find this broadcast room in order to maybe call for help, or at least try to find out what is happening here in these tunnels of the Starcourt, right, underground of Starcourt. So anyways, I thought that was really great, and then of course we'll return to them a little bit later. All right, so then Nancy calls Jonathan, and they go back to her place to meet Mike, Will, and the others. And so finally, it's like Nancy, Jonathan, and the kids are on the same page. Now we just need Dustin, Steve, and them to communicate, and then everything's good, right? And that's the same thing, like, literally both seasons before this. It's like, if they would have just communicated, all of this wouldn't have happened, right? So there is obviously a bit of plot convenience, but you're going to get that with even the best shows. That's just what it is. And it is realistic. I mean, you know, characters that are trapped in this elevator shaft are not going to be able to contact, you know, the ones on the ground searching for these hosts, right? So anyways, it is what it is. So finally, they fill them in, right? The kids and Nancy and Jonathan, for what Nancy and Jonathan have been seeing with Miss Driscoll and Billy and his dad at the paper, all that stuff. And then what Mike and Will have been, you know, and the others have been seeing with Billy and some of the other stuff. Now they're coming together. So Nancy tells them what happened to Miss Driscoll in the hospital, you know, the night before. As we saw, she kind of went insane, similar to Billy, and they do determine that it was at the same time as well, right? And that's interesting too, because, you know, I think they said it was like around 9 p.m. that Billy went rogue there in the sauna test room, right, when that whole thing played out. And that's exactly the same time that Miss Driscoll in the hospital had the same type of reaction. And so that's interesting too, and that maybe contributes to a little bit later on when we see that maybe these hosts are actually all connected, right? Like maybe it's all just one body of the Mind Flayer. And so that was really an interesting concept too. But all in all, right, they determined that Miss Driscoll has been flayed. That's the name of the episode too, the Flayed. I thought that was really great. A new term, right? Basically saying that, you know, the Mind Flayer has taken them over as hosts now. Will was flayed last season. I love it, right? All the terminology, the demo dog, the demo gorgon, and all this stuff. Really charming, really great. So just as Billy has been flayed, now they think Miss Driscoll has as well. Then they figure also that there might just be more of these flayed people, right? And they think even Heather and Tom, as Nancy and Jonathan piece together, have also been flayed at this point. So it's not just one host this time. It's not just it's not just Will, for example, right? It's multiple hosts, and they also make the kind of I think it's Lucas or maybe it's Will who points out, like, this is different, right? Like, this is different this time. These hosts act a little bit differently than what Will did. Will never really, like, attacked anybody, and he was kind of just more of a spy, right? He wasn't, a kind of a soldier, if you will, right? As I said last episode, the army is being assembled. Will was never really a part of the army. He was more of just a spy. So anyways, it does look a little bit different the way the hosts are acting this season, and that is kind of what they determined there. So after going to Tom's house then and tracking their steps from 2 nights ago, which is basically what we saw play out with Billy and Heather, basically knocking out both the parents and taking them to the building, of course, to be flayed. So they track their steps and they determine that Tom was taken somewhere by Billy and Heather, and that location must be where the flaying is happening. So they piece things together really fast. Of course, we know that is exactly what has been happening, right? Billy is taking, and Heather, right? Billy and Heather are taking these people to that building, right? And then they are getting flayed by this massive monster that's there too. So in order to find it, they will need Miss Driscoll to lead them there, because they don't know where this is, but they do know that Driscoll said, I want to go home or something like that. And so they think the place that she's calling home is that building, is that place that this flaying is taking place. Which they connect pretty fast here. Anyways, and it's good to see, like, episode 5 of the season, like, finally these characters are piecing together what we've already known for quite a while, right? That's always the satisfying part, when the pace picks up a little bit and we get into this one. All right, so later then we return to Steve. So Steve and crew finally find the main thoroughfare of this underground tunnel system, right, that the Russians have under Starcourt, and are able to locate the control room where the broadcast has been coming from. So then they sneak their way in there, and it's a really kind of, I like it. It's a little cliche, but, it's pretty charming, where they get into that, room. They're like, oh, like, thank God no one saw us. They turn around, and then, of course, there's this big Russian guy in there, right, that just looks at them, and he's, like, who are you, right? And he freaks out, reaches for his gun, all that stuff. So anyways, so they sneak in there, they find this man who ends up, Steve, so he goes for this gun, and Steve just charges at him, and he's able to knock him out. I forget what it's with. I think it's with a, what was it with? Anyways, I think maybe a bar or something like that. But anyways, Steve smacks him over the head and is able to knock this guy out. And I love this, how Dustin kind of lets him know it, right? He's like, you won your first fight and all that stuff. I thought that was really great. I think we had a mention of that too, like 2 episodes ago or something like that. Dustin teasing him there. So that was really great. Steve wins his first fight against this Russian guy, ends up knocking him out and basically saving all of them. He could have made a call and boom, like, there would have been tons of Russians there already, and they probably would have been captured, maybe even killed. So anyways, I thought that was a really great thing that played out there. Really awesome stuff. So we see they steal his key card to get out, but first, before they even start thinking, about getting out of there, and getting up to that elevator, getting up to the surface, they walk up this set of stairs after Robin kind of calls out to them, and they find the new lab. This was a really chilling scene here. They also see then in this lab the new drilling machine, or whichever it is, right? Some type of new technology that we saw in episode 1, which is the machine trying to open up the gate to the Upside Down. Really cool stuff. So it really is here in Hawkins, after all, underneath the Starcourt Mall, right? It's not in Russia. It's right here in Hawkins under the mall. And to me, I still think, like, wasn't in episode 1. They walked outside. It was all snowy. It looked like really, snowy mountains and all that stuff, that environment. And it really looked like it was in Russia. And that's, I think, what they led us to believe. They showed the flagpole, and it was the flag, the Russian flag. So, anyways, to me, I'm just, a little bit surprised here. I'm thinking, like, so this thing moved? Like, they moved the whole setup to Hawkins now again? I don't know. Maybe that is the only place where this gate can be located, and so they were practicing before, and now they moved. I don't know. To me, I don't quite get that yet, and I'm sure that will be explained as we go forward here. But it is confirmed now they are in Hawkins, these Russians, trying to open up this gate. And it's right underneath the damn mall, right? That everyone's freaking out about, but for all the wrong reasons, as we know. So, really crazy stuff, and a chilling scene there, seeing Steve, Robin, Erica, and Dustin, but probably Steve and Dustin for sure, because they know what the history is, for them looking at that and seeing what the hell they're trying to do in opening the gate again. But anyways, that's where we leave it with them. Now let's finish it off with the kids going to the hospital to see Miss Driscoll. So when they get there, only Nancy and Jonathan are allowed in to see her, as the secretary tells them. Only 2 visitors, right? And so, meanwhile, like, this hospital is just in chaos. Like, they go up to the floor that Miss Driscoll's on. Even, I think, the floor below them, or 2 floors below them, it's like, there's been like a damn massacre in this hospital, and I love it because the secretary's just sitting there on the phone, talking, and like nothing's going on. She doesn't know anything that's happening. And so I thought that was obviously, I thought that was pretty funny, but also a little frightening, But anyways, so they're allowed in to see her at this point, but this also means that 11 and the others have to wait in the lobby, which makes for an even more intense sequence coming up with Nancy and Jonathan, because they don't have 11 there to, somehow stand up for them, defend them, and they only have the 2 of them, right? And, Jonathan's not the strongest guy. Nancy's obviously, and I mean, even if Jonathan was that strong, he couldn't stand up to these doppelgangers, or I guess the Flayed, right, with Tom and this other guy. And so this makes for a really intense sequence where, to be honest, like, I didn't know what was going to happen. I thought, I'm like, they're not going to kill off Jonathan here, but they could, right? And they could. Anyways, so we get into it. So Nancy and Jonathan make it up the elevator, and we have a quick scene here where they kind of make up. They both apologize for the things they said, so that was nice. But back to the intensity. So they get to her room and quickly find out something is wrong, as she is gone. Like, she is nowhere to be seen, and all of a sudden she is gone. I think they also, on the way there, see some blood on the floor, and I'm not sure if they see that body on the floor, but maybe that's the floor below. Anyways, and so they just see like chaos has ensued, and she's gone. And then Tom shows up and tells them she has gone back home. Again, kind of confirming their theory that she's now going back to the Mind Flare, possibly back to that building, right? And Tom says that they were waiting for them to show up. So this was really cool. And then this whole sequence begins of Nancy and Jonathan being chased down by Tom and the other Nancy Drew guy, who ends up, is now Flayed as well. I thought this was a little bit, I thought it was a little bit on the nose here that this Nancy Drew guy is also Flayed. How, this is how Nancy has already seen him before, and now both these guys have been Flayed. I don't know. I would have liked to see another character who would have been a bit more surprising, but it is what it is anyways. So they're basically being tracked down by 2 of these guys. Then eventually Nancy spits up from Jonathan as she's able to get out of that room that Tom kind of has them both trapped in. Not looking good for them at all. And she just runs out of there, just leaving Jonathan there to pretty much die. I mean, let's be honest, right? Like, Tom was really getting the upper hand. Definitely broke a couple ribs, I think, of Jonathan. If not, maybe something more. I mean, really, really beating on him. And so anyways, Nancy runs away, right? Nancy just runs away, leaving Tom on him, and then that Nancy Drew, the other guy, that's what I like to call him, I don't know his name, but anyways, the other guy, basically is then chasing her. So then we see that she actually outsmarts this guy, hides behind some curtains, and then kind of comes out of nowhere behind him, hits him over the head with that fire extinguisher, and kills him, right? And she hits him like multiple times. Pretty satisfying scene for sure for Nancy, and us viewers seeing the way that she was treated. But, I think obviously she was making a little bit more of a big deal out of it than maybe what it actually was, but still satisfying nonetheless. Anyways, and so this, the blows from the fire extinguisher kill the Nancy Drew guy, but this in turn causes Tom to feel the same blows and kind of react the same way that guy does, even though Jonathan hasn't even done anything to him. He's just sitting there on the ground, and Tom is feeling this. So to me, I think this confirms that they are all connected. It's similar to that demo dogs in last season, where when the gate was kind of closed or the Mind Flayer was defeated as they thought, all the demo dogs just died. All of a sudden, they just all died. And so I'm wondering then if it's the same case with this, and that all these hosts, when, and I guess Tom only dies, though, because Jonathan ends up stabbing him in the throat with those scissors. But I wonder then if Billy, for example, felt this too. Did he feel those blows to the head from that fire extinguisher the same way that Tom did when that Nancy Drew guy got hit? Or was it just because they were in the same relative location? I'm not sure, but I'm wondering if that is the case, and that all of these things, it's like really one body, but they are all different kind of hosts, you know what I mean? So they're all connected and they all have the same type of fate, which would be really interesting and a lot easier to defeat for sure. Anyway, so this gives Jonathan the chance to stab him in the throat, killing Tom as well. Then it just gets insane. So suddenly, the two men's dead bodies decompose into those red guts that we saw before from the rats, right? But we haven't seen this with humans yet. So the bodies of Guts then move toward each other until they meet then in the middle of the hallway between Nancy and Jonathan, are kind of standing on either side now, which is a really cool visual. The cinematography was really great in this end sequence here. Anyway, so these Guts come together and they form this new mini monster. And it was quick, man. Like, these two Guts come together and then boom. Like, this thing is, it kind of like creeps up into its skin, if you will. And just a really cool stuff here. The effects were really well done here as well. The monster looks really great. Really awesome stuff. So this monster forms. We hear this thing kind of screech. And then we see everything go completely dark. And its red eyes, those blinking red eyes, are the only thing that we see. And then, of course, we know Jonathan and Nancy are on either side of the hall. And now they're looking at this monster who's right smack dab in the middle of them. Really insane ending to the episode here, and this thing looks creepy as hell. And we have to remember that Nancy and Jonathan probably in worse shape than her, but still, both not in good condition right now, right? I mean, Jonathan just got, really his ass handed to him by Tom here. Nancy got, hit, I think, a few times. So they're not in good condition, and now this monster is probably going to come and chase them down. Really great ending to this episode. Looking forward to how they pick this one up next time. Alright, so in terms of rating for this episode, I'm going to give this one a 4.5 out of 5. I love the Joyce and Hopper stuff once again. I think that storyline is maybe my favorite so far this season, or at least, for the past few episodes that they've been together on this kind of mission. I thought that was a really great part of the episode. The supernatural element really heating up now, right? We're getting the, a new monster forming here at the end of the episode. We get a lot of insight into how the doppelgangers work and how, the Flayed, right? And they're starting to figure out that there's more than just Billy that's been flayed. There's multiple. And so really picking up here and really fast, too. I mean, the first 3 episodes, not much happened, right? And they didn't really make many revelations about things. And now they are really picking it up fast, right, and figuring these things out, and I'm definitely here for it. It's really awesome, to see all these, all the kids kind of coming back together again to fight another evil, which is actually a very similar evil as well. So I enjoy the Dustin and Steve storyline, along with Robin and Erica. I really like that as well. Really awesome in this episode. The chemistry, I believe, between those actors is also really great too. Especially between, I believe it's, what is it, Gaten Marazzo, right? Marazzo, and then Joe Keery as well. Steve and Dustin, really awesome chemistry on screen there. And you can really tell, really great stuff there from that storyline. And that's one that I didn't really expect to like, going into it. I'm like, oh, well, it's going to be kind of gimmicky. okay, let's see what happens. Steve and Dustin, that kind of friendly banter. But it actually has been turned into something really great and really intriguing. So I really do enjoy that. I will say, though, again in this episode, a lack of charm. There was some charming moments in this one, but they're kind of exchanging this this charm, stuff. This kind of, I guess kind of classic season one stuff with the kids. They're exchanging this for this cliche and tropey writing over and over again. I'm seeing, and to me, the pacing is picking up, but the writing is not. It's almost like falling down as we go and as the pace picks up. So again, I'm not sure if this is the Duffer Brothers not writing these episodes, and maybe that is why the quality is falling down a little bit. But to me, I still think the first two episodes are much better written than any of the last three that we have got here in the season. So anyways, that's just me, though. I feel like when the pacing picks up, they kind of forget what their roots are, and then they just go to the cliche monster movie, horror type of thing. And that's what the show did so well in season one and not very good in season two. And that was pretty much my main complaint with season two. It was good, it was entertaining, but it was pretty cliche, not a lot of original stuff in there. And that's where I thought season one really separated itself. But anyways, that's what it is. And that's why I'm not quite yet ready to say this season is better than season one, because I got to see how the rest of this season plays out. All right, favorite character for this one, I got to go with Steve Harrington, played by Joe Keery. As I mentioned before, I think his storyline, along with Dustin and Robin and Erica now as well, has really, really developed well. I think they've done a great job with it. And again, the chemistry that him and Dustin have, got Marazzo, I guess, in the show, it really, really great. And Joe Keery's doing an amazing job this season. Again, I thought in season two, his character, I didn't even think he'd be that big of a part in that one, right? Similar to how I feel this season with Billy. I didn't think Billy was going to be a big part of this season, but they really do surprise us. I love the way his character ended with Dustin in season two, and they really are milking that exact, basically relationship or dynamic throughout the entire season this season. And I'm really enjoying that decision. I think it was a really great one to make. So anyways, guys, that'll just about do it, I guess, for my review of this episode. Looking forward to next week, or I guess next episode, to see, how this is all going to play out, and really looking forward to the ending here. And it's going to be interesting to see if they really are connected, and if this is just really one body. They really just have to defeat the brain, and then the body dies, which would be all of these hosts. And then how would they get back the original, right? How would they get the real people back who have been put into the Upside Down now, or at least somehow disappeared for now, and now they've been replaced by these doppelgangers or these flayed versions of themselves. So that's going to be really interesting to see how that plays out. But anyways, thank you so much for watching this one, guys. Love to hear your thoughts on this episode and the season, as I mentioned before. But that'll just about do it. So then we'll see you next time for Stranger Things Season 3, Episode 6.